My name is Brian Skerry, and we're at the 2011 Peter Benchley Awards in Washington, D.C.
Awesome. Okay. So can you give us a brief background on your environmental career?
I began as a photographer about 30 years ago and started working for National Geographic magazine about 13 years ago. And I suppose, like most photographers, I just started out wanting to make beautiful pictures of subjects that interested me. But over time, there's been a bit of an evolution in my career, in the sense that over those years I began to see a lot of degradation occurring in the world's oceans, things that I don't think most people are aware of. And I felt a sense of urgency as a photojournalist to begin covering some of those issues as well. So several years ago, I began proposing stories to National Geographic that were not your typical underwater story. I wanted to show things that were a little harder hitting, harsher, more like war photography. I did stories on global fish crisis, stories on harp seals showing the hunting and the global warming effects to these animals, endangered species. And these stories oftentimes had difficult pictures to look at. They might be a shark being finned on a beach, or a dead shark in a net, or a turtle dead with a hook, in its mouth, a long line, or something like that. So I believe that, this awareness is critical for readers and for people around the world to gain some understanding about what's happening in the world's oceans, because most of it happens out of our view. So I've been given this privilege to be able to make such pictures, but I also think it's important to have a balance between what I call celebratory pictures that show beautiful things and some of the more issue-based pictures. So that's sort of been the evolution of my career and kind of where I am today.
Please describe this event and why do you think it's important?
The Blue Vision Summit?
The whole
Yep.
thing. Yep.
Well, I think the Blue Vision Summit, and particularly this Peter Benchley award ceremony, is very important because it's a gathering of some of the key individuals in the marine community. There is a lot of different events throughout the world that are held every year, but rarely is such an event held where you bring together politicians, you have senators, congressmen, congresswomen, White House staffers, and scientists, artists, people from many different disciplines that come together to share ideas, discuss policy, and try to move the agenda forward. And you're in Washington, D.C. It's a power center. It's where things can happen. People do listen. And I believe progress has been made in just the several years that this event is held. So it may not be the biggest event in the world in terms of attendance, but it certainly is one of the most influential and most powerful. Sure.
Okay. What does the ocean mean to you?
Well, the ocean means so much to me. I fell in love with the sea as a child, and I have had this amazing life because of that. I think it all began with this innate desire to explore the ocean, and I decided to explore it with a camera. So for me, it's a place of mystery, of discovery. It's a place that always has hidden secrets that I never seem to be able to solve. There's riddles with every animal that we only begin to see small glimpses of some of these elusive behaviors and elusive creatures. But it's a place that is also in trouble today. And over my career, I've seen a lot of problems occurring. I often say that the ocean is dying a death from 1,000 cuts. There's so many things that are assaulting it. And I think it's incumbent upon somebody like myself as a journalist to try to elevate that discussion, to somehow bring that to people so that we can affect change. I don't think it's too late. I think there is hope out there, but the ocean is everything. The ocean gives us life. Even if you're really not connected to it, at least you may not think you're connected to it, you really are. Something like every 4 out of 5 breaths that a human being takes comes from the ocean, the air that we breathe. And 98% of the biosphere, the livable, habitable planet Earth, is ocean. So it's critical to our existence, and our own life depends on it. So whether it's just for enjoyment or for celebratory, going swimming and just having fun, or if you realize the real, foundation of how important the ocean is for all of us, it's important on every level. So for me, it's important, but I think it's important for everyone.
Excellent. If a picture tells 1,000 words, what do you believe are some of the most powerful messages your photographs convey?
I do believe that a picture conveys 1,000 words, and I also believe that great collections of pictures can be even more powerful in the way that they tell a story. I'd like to think that the images that I make, not all of them, but some of the better ones, do communicate issues that people may not understand initially, but when they see the photograph, they begin to grasp, particularly conservation pictures. You know, a photograph that I've made of a thresher shark in a gill net that looks something like a crucifixion is a way to speak to people about the fact that 100 million sharks are killed every single year on planet Earth. It's a staggering number. It's something that most people really can't get their head around. But when they see a single image of this animal that, as I said, sort of depicts a crucifixion with its eyes still open and these large pectoral fins outstretched, maybe they begin to have some empathy for what's going on. You know, people that otherwise wouldn't care that sharks are being killed might begin to get that. Or a celebratory picture, a picture that I made of a 45-foot, 70-ton right whale swimming up to my assistant on the bottom, you know, man and whale in this pristine wilderness in the subantarctic, an event that was one of the highlights of my career. But to be able to see that, I think it shows people that, you know, we do inhabit this planet with other creatures and that we do have a responsibility. We have to be good custodians. And each image conveys another layer of that message, I'd like to think. And collectively, we build on that. And my work and other photographers' work begins to continue to beat that drum. And the resonance, hopefully, will make a difference.
Okay, last question. How is photography a powerful instrument of change?
I think that photography is an instrument for change in the sense that throughout history, we've seen images that have affected mankind. I've once read that the human brain records events in still images. Even when we see a movie and we think about a motion picture, we think about it as a still frame, those individual moments. And anything that we've experienced in our life, we also sort of remember as these still frames. So whether it was a tragic event, you know, the Kennedy assassination, or a monumental event, the first man on the moon, we remember these iconic frames that were made photographically throughout history, and they can change things, whether it's civil rights or the environmental movement. The environmental movement hasn't had a lot of attention historically, but I think we're gaining some traction. We're beginning to gain some momentum in the sense that photographers are beginning to take what we like to call bad pictures, not just the pretty pictures, but the pictures that show destruction or what's happening that otherwise people wouldn't know about. And I think that a single image in a newspaper or magazine, you know, somebody will be sitting at a dentist's office and they'll pick up a magazine and they see that single frame, and all of a sudden they care and they want to read the article, they want to read the caption, they want to read the article, they want to become informed. And with that awareness, change is possible. So I do think that it is an instrument for change. I think it's very powerful, and I think that the combination of great science and great images is exactly what we need to solve these problems for the environment.